website, and you go under Dharma. There are like three main kind of sections. If you go under Dharma, there will be a drop-down menu, and in there will be a Join Sangha page. And that is where a brief description of what DDIS Sangha meetings are about, and then followed by the registration, or we call it application form. It's really not so much that anybody will be rejected. In fact, in the response email, in writing that email, at first the language was your application has been accepted, and I thought, no, I really don't mean it that way, as if you will get an email that says it has been rejected. It's not that. It's the registering is making it more intentional and more formal. Intentionality and formality are necessary on this side of confusion. Yes, you can say the natural state of the mind doesn't have all these things. The natural state of mind is blah, blah, blah. The natural state of mind is blah, blah, blah. And the fact is that we have lost contact or lost touch, right? We have misfouled this natural state of mind. So no matter how much we say about what the natural state of mind is, we have to work with the condition of having lost or misfouled this natural state of mind. And so in this samsaric mess, intentionality is something that we need to work on. And that then under that degree of formality is also necessary to help us in our journey to go find back, to regain this lost identity. So anyway, that is where that application is. And you guys can also point to other people whom you think might be wanting to join something like this. You could direct them there and say, y'all can take a look, And there I try to answer some of the usual questions as to what are the commitments, what does it mean, and what does it not mean, As I said, it doesn't mean that, now you don't practice with other places, other groups, or other, it has no connotation like that. It also doesn't mean, like, oh, now, Hanlai is your teacher, your guru, or, stuff like that. All of those things have to happen organically. For some of you, it has happened that way. And so, well, good or bad, here we are, we are connected that way. For some of you, maybe, you're not going to feel that way, and that's okay. More important for me, my kind of purpose of providing this is so that you can connect to this particular lineage. Again, that I am happy if you can connect to this particular lineage doesn't have anything to do with what I think about other lineages. It is not really about what I think about other lineages that I'm interested or happy that you get a chance to connect to this lineage, to this Dugun Kagyu. It's simply that Dugun Kagyu is the lineage that I know best. And since, I have a title that comes with responsibility given by His Holiness the Dribung Kyabgun. So then, I need to live up to that. That's one aspect. Then more importantly, I myself have really connected with this lineage, particularly more and more the style of the early Kagyupas, which I'm still discovering in part through the works of modern scholars who are usually themselves, they don't practice, they're not religious. I'm not looking to them for Dharma inspiration. But I am looking at the way they are telling us more and more the style and the circumstances of the early Kagyu tradition. So the early Kagyu tradition, both from the Milarepa influence, and then from Milarepa one generation back to Marpa, as well as from Gampopa's Kadampa influence. Gampopa had his Kadampa teachers who were, I think you could say, grand disciples of Atisha. Atisha's tradition generally is called Kadampa. But within Kadampa, this early Kadampa, which has, nothing to do with the current day New Kadampa. New Kadampa, it's a Gelugpa thing that, some messy stuff happened there. We don't need to go into that, Kadampa is Atisha's lineage. And even Atisha's lineage, 3 styles kind of evolve very early. 3 styles. Yeah, one style is a scholastic style, and then the other 2 styles are very practice oriented. The scholastic style of Atisha's lineage also gave rise to some of the greatest minds, Tibetan minds, that studied the topic of Madhyamaka. So Sangpu was, during Gampopa's time, Sangpu Monastery was a very strong Madhyamaka studies, philosophy, debate. But that is only one element of the early Kadampas. The ones that Gampopa seemed to have trained under were all very practice-oriented. In fact, they think like all these studies can lead us astray. Yeah. Now, of course, today, for good reasons, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, especially when he's speaking across religious traditions, spiritual traditions, then he really emphasizes the importance and the important contributions of this scholastic tradition. So he emphasized study, study, study. Use reasoning, study. Because reasoning and studying can bridge across different spiritual traditions. So I agree with what he has to say. However, that doesn't mean that we cannot appreciate that for the early Kagyupas, studying in this way, using reasoning, using logic, and then more and more, like technical, logical systems and things like that. For the early Kagyupas, they had little interest of that sort. And it is really this early, Kadampa and Kagyupa tradition that I feel, for many of us, might be the most relevant to us. And so I'm happy, to kind of emphasize kind of this particular aspect, this particular tradition, this particular flavor of the Kagyus. Later Kagyupas picked up many things from many other elements around them, including the development of scholarship, study, philosophy, debate, as well as the development of big ritual systems. Like very impressive, like today, like Lama dance and, elaborate, dharmas and all that sort of stuff, and rituals that require, like 20 people, 30 people to coordinate together, like a choreograph, ritual performance and all of that. All of this, have their place. But again, in the early Kagyupas, they did very little of this. Yeah. But in case you're thinking, I'm not necessarily what some people might call like a purist, yeah? And say, oh, after the early Kagyupas, it was all corrupted. No, my view is not that. My view is that necessarily they had to adapt to the conditions around them and do their best to keep their tradition, their lineage, their monastery relevant to the needs that are arising. As society becomes more and more developed as well as complex, very naturally, you have to keep up and develop in this way. Yeah? So when I say, like there's something to be learned from the early Kagyupas, it is not an indictment of, what has happened since the early Kagyupas to today. It's not that at all. It's not my place to indict them. And I really appreciate a lot of the other things that have developed, and appreciate in the sense of like I can see the historical processes that have necessitated, that have provided the conditions for the development of this trend or that trend. So then the bigger picture is I hope to be able to also help you to see and to figure out for yourself, not necessarily for other people, for yourself, what is the essence? What is the essence? And how do you keep the essence while also not sticking out like a, like a problem for other people? That I think is also important. Sometimes we say, oh, I'm going to keep the essence, and then we become a nuisance to others. Yeah? Because then others think, you're walking around like what Christians call, holier than thou. Yeah? Holier than thou, self-righteousness, my way is the right, I follow the early, I follow the founder, you people are not. Even if you're not saying you people, there's a way of kind of, keeping the essence and then also kind of criticizing others. I hope we don't do that, But what I do hope is, through this program, what I'm able to help you to see and to appreciate is what is so special about this early Kagyupas. By early Kagyupas, I mean, and more specifically, I mean Dapo Kagyu, meaning then Gampopa. What about Milarepa? What about Marpa? Well, to the degree that Milarepa and Marpa's influence came through to Gampopa, to that degree, in this DDIS, you're going to hear about it. As for Marpa's own specialty, which is in tantric practice and tantric commentary and all of that, I can tell you very bluntly, I don't have expertise. I don't have that kind of training and expertise. I cannot share with you. Also, I don't have that interest to go into that particular area. Milarepa, of course, there are lots of Milarepa songs. But then these Milarepa songs have gone through a lot of editorial hands. We know that. This collection, we have one group studying Milarepa songs on Sundays. And I've talked a little bit about, all the editorial hands that have been involved in shaping Milarepa's songs. Even the basic story of Milarepa's life. The version that we have today has undergone shaping and reshaping. I don't know if you guys notice, some of you, many of you have not read the book, but I know there's at least some of you who have at least read once Khenchen Rinpoche's translation of a set of Kagyupa biographies called the Great Kagyu Masters. if you have read that before, now go back and read, for example, The Life of Milarepa, you are going to go, this is not like the one that I know. Yeah. But the one that is in the Great Kagyu Masters, that source is an earlier source than the one Life of Milarepa that we have today by Changnyeong Heruka. Changnyeong Heruka came a few hundred years after Milarepa. Yeah? So Changnyeong Heruka's version of Milarepa's life is one of many versions. The one in the Great Kagyu Masters is not the same as Changnyeong Heruka's story. In fact, the one in, for example, the one in Great Kagyu Masters, Milarepa was educated. In fact, the father said to him, and no story of evil aunt and uncle in Great Kagyu Masters. This is just some example. This is not finding fault, okay? This is just some examples of how we know so little about. But with Gampopa, actually, we know more. In a way, we know more as in we know things that are more reliable. Because his life story did not become like a classic. See, when someone's life has become a classic, then many things, get worked into these classics to teach like bigger lessons. Whereas someone like Gampopa's life and Jigden Sumgun's life, they are not so classic. And so then there's less temptation to massage the classic, so that it can make big classical points, so to say. So people kind of just left those biographies alone for the most part. And so those are the types of things that I would like to share with you to really give you an idea of what early. So when I say early Kagyu, I'm talking about like Gampopa and the style of practice that issues from Gampopa and Gampopa students and grand students. So grand students would be Jigden Sumgun. Students would be like, well, in this lineage, it would be Pamudrupa. Then, of course, Gamakagyu would be Dusung Khyentpa, the first Karmapa. So anyway, early Kagyu masters, their style is a little different from what we know today. Yeah. So anyway, any questions or comments,
I still got that Jagompa book with 72 chapters. Years ago, you told us to get a book, Jagompa with 72 chapters, and we're supposed to read the chapter. We did a class on that years and years ago.
72 chapters. Really?
Yeah. Jewel Ornament, I think it is.
Jewel Ornament of Liberation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a Dragong, that's a Gampopa text.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll shut up, sorry.
Are you all just staring into the camera?
My bad, sorry.
You're all just nothing to do with you.
I'm Christina, by the way.
Nothing to do with you, but just the rest of you. Like, are you all just staring into the camera?
They're too shy.
It's been a long day.
Well, we could start at 6 a.m. then. And it's been a long night, I suppose.
I can comment.
Back. Yeah.
Okay, so I was really wondering, as many other people, what will be all this about. But I've seen it as a great opportunity to have a deeper learning and to have a um, direct contact with you through these classes and develop and strengthen our link to you, because personally I've just met you through this media a very short time ago.
Uh-huh.
So I appreciate the teachings. I appreciate the opportunity of learning. So I have not been haunted, let's say, for doubts, or really, I'm kind of comfortable.
Okay, good.
So I don't have a specific question right now. What
Oh,
you
your
just
comments are
said,
good. It doesn't.
but that's my comment. I'm kind of keeping my mind open to whatever new learning we're going to have and deeper learning from you.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Thank you.
Hey, Joseph, can you be the person reading what's happening on the chat so that I'm not the only person talking? If people send questions there?
Oh, yeah, I think I can do that. Yeah.
Good.
I'll ask a question, Dr. Lai. How
Yeah.
do the early Kagyu masters relate to the Shangpa Kagyu that comes through the Indian antecedents into Tibet? So I know the lineages are different between the Pampa's lineage and then obviously that
Yeah.
lineage, which has more of an Indian tantric historic place in it, to be kind of really vague with it. But you know what I'm talking about. So what
You're
lineage
asking
do they?
about, you're asking about Shangpa Kagyu?
Yeah, I want to know in terms of their early.
Shangpa is just
the early-
another lineage.
Yeah, no, yeah, the early practice tradition from in both of those lineages, right? Dakpa Kagyu with Gampapa coming through Milarepa to Gampapa and everything like
Yes,
that.
yes.
Is there a major difference in emphasis and practice between those two lineages, or are they early on very much the same?
I don't know much about Shangpa Kagyu, but here might be a good thing to mention that in this period of time, Kagyu simply means a valid lineage of the Buddha's teachings.
Okay.
Yeah. At this period, in Gampopa's own time, Kagyu wasn't an exclusive term tied to Milarepa and Marpa. Right? In fact, Atisha's teachings were called Atisha Kagyu. Yeah. So Kagyu, Ka is the Buddha's word. Like the Buddha's authoritative words called Ka. So Kangyo. Kangyo is the collection of the Buddha's words, which is one half of the Tibetan Buddhist canon. The other half is called Tengyo. Tengyo is the commentaries that the Indian masters wrote. So it's the same Ka. Kangyo, Ka, and Kang, Ka, Gyu. Gyu is lineage. So a lineage of the Buddha's teachings, of which there were many, many, many lineages. So there was Atisha Kagyu, Shangpa Kagyu, and then Kadam is the same Ka, Buddha's word. So Kadam is, the meaning of that is something like those who take the Buddha's word as the key instructions. That's the meaning of that term, Kadam. Yeah. So I don't, like I said, I don't know much about Shangpa Kagyu. Shangpa Kagyu is Kyungpo Neljo. Kyungpo Neljo was the first Tibetan figure that connected to that lineage. Yeah. And I think because of that, because of the name Kagyu, people think that somehow, Dakpo Kagyu and Shangpa Kagyu is, closely related. No more close than, Kadampa is, it's just that historical chance has it such that Kyungpo Neljo's lineage, their people kept the Kagyu. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually, now that you clarified that, because even from just looking at like their practice tradition, from what I've studied historically with them, they're really different than
Yes.
anything in our lineage. Even in their early history, it's much more Salung oriented, and it almost like emphasizes that even immediately, rather than pretty much the
That was
reverse.
very similar to Milarepa.
Yeah.
But Gampopa himself kind of moved away from that strong emphasis on.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, rightly so. But that's just me. So,
Gampopa really moved away from that.
all right. Well, thank you.
He taught Mahamudra independent of this yogic, stuff.
I also have a question. First, I'm very enthusiastic for your teachings, Dr. Lai. My question is about the jewel ornament of liberation, the Potarja. In our community, we're just beginning to study this book, and I have a question related to whether all Lamrim systems come from the jewel ornament of liberation. How, because I heard that all Lamrim comes from Atisha's lamp to enlightenment, and then to the jewel ornament of liberation, and that Jitsun Kappa, for example, Lamrim, is a descendant of the jewel ornament of liberation. I want a clarification on that.
I don't think Rinpoche's Lamrim Chenmo is that much based on jewel ornament. I think it's more based on Atisha's lamp on the path. So Atisha's lamp on the path became the template for these Lamrim. Lamrim means stages of the path instructions. Yeah, related to Lamrim, there's another category called Tenrim, stages of teachings. Lamrim, stages of path. So if you look at Rinpoche's Lamrim, it's a little different from jewel ornament. Doesn't explicitly tell you, here is how you practice. Yeah. It doesn't tell you, here is how you practice. But it's way more detailed than Atisha's basic Lamrim text.
But the jewel ornament could be considered a Lamrim text?
Yes. Yeah, it's considered a Lamrim, stages of the path. Yeah.
And what's the relation between Drikun Kayu and Dakpo Tarjun and the jewel ornament?
Drikun Kagyu is part of Dakpo Kagyu.
It's the what?
Drikun Kagyu is part of Dakpo Kagyu. Dakpo Kagyu.
No. Between Drikun Kayu, how is held the jewel ornament of liberation? How it is held within Drikun Kayu?
It's a major text.
Considering the foremost text?
There is no foremost or not foremost. It's an important text.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lai.
Yeah. There's no in Tibetan Buddhism, there's no foremost text like the Bible, No, there's nothing like that, Every Lama has their own, pile of things. I've mentioned this. Every Lama, in their pile of books, there's a lot of books that kind of, similar with what other lamas have, then there's a whole bunch of other things that each lama kind of have. It was never centralized in the way that theistic religions are centralized.
And do you have any advice for us as a community that are beginning to read and study the jewel ornament? Do you have any advice for us?
No, not really. All I can say is I feel, and my teacher might yell at me for saying this. I feel that jewel ornament was composed to be taught and not to be read. You know the difference? That it was composed to be taught and not composed to be read. So it takes a lot of good karma to want to read it from beginning to end. If you don't have enough good karma, you're not going to want to read it from beginning to end.
Do you have any interest in teaching it?
Yeah, I've taught it before.
Oh,
Yeah.
must have missed
Taught
it.
it before.
Have to find
I
out.
was in it.
So I of course, I didn't finish, but when I say that it was written more to be taught, is because it's almost like the teacher's manual. Yeah, so it's necessarily dry because it's not there to inspire you. You want inspiration, you go somewhere else. Yeah, you go get inspired somewhere else. Yeah? You have to come fully inspired. Yeah? Then the teacher unpacks it, fills in with stories, with examples, anecdotes, Then the text comes really alive. That's why personally, I have never told someone, hey, you should read the jewel ornament. Because I know it will drive this person away. Except for accountants, If there are people who are accountants, then I tell them, oh, yes, read the jewel ornament. Oh, they get so excited. But in Asheville, there's not a lot of accountants, In Asheville, there are poets, There are nature people. So jewel ornament, I cannot tell them, oh, read the jewel ornament. That's like saying, run away.
It's like this one neighbor I used to have. She taught. She taught the teachers how to teach, and she made the books and the computer programs so that teachers could teach the lesson. And the teachers would have to read all that, and then they would teach the lesson to the people who were in that class. That's
Yes.
what the ornament is.
Yes, yeah. So it's an important text. Gampopa said, he said, if you in the future, those of you who think, oh, I never met you, oh, I'm so sad, he said, then no need, he says. Learn the jewel ornament. Learn the Lamcho Rinchen Tengwa, the profound Lamcho, the profound path, the jewel Rinchen Tengwa, the jewel mala, the jewel rosary of precious dharma, yeah? of the supreme path. Lamcho Rinchen Tengwa. And then there's a third text title that he mentioned. But the other day, Karmapa Ogentine, during his teachings, he said, the third text, there is no agreement among the different Kagyu traditions the different Dapokagyo traditions, writers, what exactly is the third text? And then he said, this is a little bit embarrassing. He said, if we ourselves who call ourselves Dapokagyo cannot come to an agreement, which is this third text that Gampopa says is really important, he said, it's a little bit embarrassing. He said, I hope we can, agree, exactly what text is this third text? Hey, Joseph, are you doing your job? I see things blinking. You are the spokesperson. You are the voice. You're supposed to channel the chat.
Yeah, so someone said accountants and analytic philosophers. Winky
Yes,
smiley face.
for the jewel ornament. People
Yes.
get very excited reading the jewel ornament, yes.
Yes.
By themselves, I'm not saying, like receiving teachings is not a good idea, It's just that if you were to pick it up by yourself, it's a little hard. Yeah.
And along that line, reminded me of the Summa Theologica when I first read it.
Yeah, so, theological works, they are written, and among the works of Gampopa, I think there's maybe 4 volumes, so not a lot actually. I think maybe 4 volumes, like the Dakpokambum. I think only like jewel ornament is the most like sustained and systematic, like writing. And according to scholars, they think that this is probably one of the earliest things that Gampopa wrote down. Then as he got older and older, he spent more time giving like direct, like pith instructions to individual students. And there it is no longer in this like systematic scholastic style. It's just like, directly from his realization and hitting the right point with the person who is listening. And those things are recorded. So like in Jiden Sumgun's 12 volumes too, there are many, many things like that. Just today, part of our translation team, I was talking to this Kempo, this translation that came to us that was completed. And I said, hey, Kempo, this translation, like this particular teaching, like, what does it mean? Kempo said, oh yeah, it's a very difficult one. Then Kempo said, the words are not difficult, all the words are quite clear. But what does it mean? He says, that is really difficult. It says, because you have to imagine, Kempo said, and this is a very good point, Kempo said, he said this to someone. And whoever that someone is, he says the problem with like these teachings here is you have no context at all. Yeah, you don't know what was said before and you don't know what was said after. It's like a snapshot, So it's and this is almost like a koan in the Zen tradition. Like it's a snapshot of a particular conversation that took place, and then you have no idea, what the broader context is. So then I said to Kempo, I said, Kempo, you should tell the team, He said, oh, I told them that. I said, no. I said, you should tell the team the next time something like that comes up, you should just tell the team, don't translate this. Find another text, because it's inaccessible to us. So there are going to be things like that, that's just inaccessible to us, because so much of like this kind of like Kempo said, this is yogis talking, that means meditators talking, and only other meditators that really get what the meditator is talking about. So in a way, it's easy to translate scholastic work once you figure out the style and the intellectual commitments of that particular scholar. So their writings is very technical and systematic. So if you learn, right, those standards, you can translate very easy. But when it's a yogi using cryptic words to express, you know, inner experiences, yeah, that he knows whoever he's talking to has the capacity to kind of understand what he's saying. The rest of us would just be like, eh. Yeah. So there's things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to just say for Pablo's benefit,
Uh-huh.
I was introduced to the jewel ornament first by Chogyam Trungpa, and
Uh-huh.
then I think I may have heard one of your talks on
Yeah.
it too. And it's enthralling because for a person who didn't really have an overview of what Buddhism is, it gave me a
Yes.
lot of information. You know, very beneficial that way.
Yes.
And it's my favorite text now. So don't get scared, Pablo, okay? Don't
Good.
let me scare you.
Thank you, Randy.
There is some chat here, Hun, talking about if there's a recording of when you taught the jewel ornament.
Oh, I don't know.
Right.
Tim might know. Timothy might know if there is or there isn't, or at least he can look into it.
I think there might be, yeah. I can look into it.
Yeah, you mean like in cassettes? Back when we were using cassettes? I can't hear you, Tim.
Yes.
So anyway, let's do some opening recitations, you know. Then we'll continue, yeah. First page, yeah? We'll do a short opening, which is usually the first, second, the aspiration bodhicitta and engagement bodhicitta. Then we go to the short refuge, which is on page 5. But first, page 1 and 2, then page 5. Yeah, page 1 and 2, and then page 5. Mei Ma, can you please lead us in this? 3, 1, 3, 3. 3 times, 1 time, 3 times, 3 times. Yeah.
In English?
Yes, English.
Okay.
Yeah.
All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion.
Thank you. And then now to the top of page 8. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. And so that's the summary of the 7-branched or 7-limbed puja, of which the most commonly used words are part of this aspiration prayer called the King of Noble Aspiration Prayers of Samantabhadra. The first 12 verses. This is the 12th verse that summarizes the 7 elements of a Buddhist puja, a Buddhist act of worship, you could call that, but not worship in the theistic sense, which is the 7 elements is prostrating or paying homage. Prostrating is much more specific, but actually more generally is paying homage. Then making offerings, confessing, exposing, laying bare, right, all the ways in which we have acted under the power of the 3 poisons, confusion, attachment, and aversion. Rejoicing in the goodness and the merit that we witness around us, requesting the Buddhas to teach and beseeching them not to pass into nirvana, and then dedicating the merit or the power that has been accumulated through these acts to complete Bodhi. I have sometimes in the past, or often I have said, the dedication takes us full circle back to the beginning, which is generating bodhicitta. Like the 3 principles, or not 3 principles, the 3 excellences. There's a category called the 3 excellences. The excellence at the beginning is bodhicitta, the altruistic resolve, right? The excellence in the middle is non-grasping, not fixating during the main practice. So the foundation of the practice, the preliminary of all practices should be generating bodhicitta. During the main practice, what we're practicing is not fixating, not grasping. So that is related to understanding and realization of the lack of inherent existence, the realization of emptiness. Then at the end, it is dedicating everything that we have done for the enlightenment of all beings. So I've often said that in many ways, right, dedication and motivation is like two aspects of the same thing. Yeah. Recently, very nicely, in one of the texts that the translation team has translated, very short, the title of the teaching there, this is from Jigden Sumgön's 12 volumes, is the way in which Manjushri gave rise to bodhicitta. Very short, just one paragraph. And there, Jigden Sumgön says, Manjushri first first produced this bodhi resolve when he dedicated merit at the end of like a great deed that he performed. Then he said, by the power of this deed that I have done, may I achieve Buddha for the sake of all beings. And then it said that dedication also doubled up as his first genuine giving rise of the resolve to become Buddha. So when I saw that, I said, oh, good. I've been saying this without having seen, an exact source saying it. But now I saw, in the translations. So the seventh, dedicating to complete Bodhi, that is taking us back to where we started, which is we generate bodhicitta. We produce this resolve to become Buddha for others, for the benefit of others. So a few things before I forget, so maybe good to give a couple of announcements. One announcement is most immediately this weekend, there is, back up. I just shared something on chat. Since we were talking about jewel ornament, better than looking for my recording is we are slowly putting Kenjen Goncho Gyaltsen Rinpoche's teachings on the jewel ornament on YouTube. So what I just sent you is a link to that. So Pablo, I would encourage your group that is starting to study jewel ornaments, at least one, or if a couple of you in the group understand English, or obviously you do, go listen to Rinpoche's teachings on that. Then you can share with your group. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. I will.
Yeah, Ellen in Indonesia got these files from Jason, who is here with us too. And so then Ellen is moving these files. I told her not to throw everything in all together. Then people think it's, it's there. I said, release it slowly. So right now, I think she has put up maybe 13 so far. These, I think Jason got from someone else who was at TMC. So these were teachings given at TMC many years ago when I was there too. Every winter, Rinpoche would teach the jewel ornament. And he taught it for maybe 3 winters or something like that. It was always over Christmas to New Year's. At that time, there is like maybe 10 people. But Rinpoche was very, kind and generous. And he said, yeah, I know. He said, it's not a good time for people to come. But he said, but I also know there are some people, this time from Christmas to New Year is a very lonely time for them. So he said, I will teach the jewel ornament so they can come. And so, so I was there. I was lonely because I was a foreign student. It was during the holidays. And I'm not one of the rich foreign students who could go home just for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks. So then I went to TMC, where Kenjen Rinpoche founded the center in Frederick, Maryland. And so those teachings were slowly releasing on Rinpoche's YouTube channel. So that's one announcement. Second announcement, this coming weekend, there is a program that I'm doing, offering, and it's facilitated by the Ecumenical Buddhist Society of Little Rock. So I don't know, Casey, if you're able to find the link for that information. If you can, put it in the chat so that people can click there and register or get more information if they want. So EBS, which is the Buddhist Society in Little Rock, Arkansas, is, Little Rock, Arkansas is a very different part of the United States from New York and Los Angeles. For those of you who are not in the US, that's about the only US I think you see because you watch TV. My point is, Little Rock, Arkansas, for the last 30 years have had a strong Buddhist community. All the Buddhists, banded together because they were right in the middle of, what are Buddhists? Like, do you all kill goats? So it's a very strong group, very dedicated. So I connected with the group a few years back, and so now I've done things annually with them. So that's Casey has given the link. So it's a program on basically impermanence, death, dying, and beyond. I will talk about POA, but I'm not really talking about POA in the usual Drigong POA, the whole technique, all of that. I'm not teaching the technique because I think technique can come much later. Technique is secondary. Basic understanding will determine whether POA means to go, to transfer. The word POA has a more general meaning than the practice where you say a certain syllable and then you imagine your consciousness coming out of your head, and that is like a very specialized technique. POA simply is the word used for when you die and you move on to the next place. So whether you know the technique or not, you will POA somewhere. Are you going to POA into the hell realms? Are you going to POA into a human realm? Are you POA into, the cow realm? Well, depending on how you train yourself. And you say, oh, I don't train myself in anything. Actually, you do. There's no such thing as I'm not training in anything. We are always training. We are either training in confusion or we are training in clarity. So if you train in confusion, well, you'll go to a confused next stop. So this coming weekend is more, getting into that, understanding what do we mean, and I'm going to look at particularly the Lojong in 7 points. One of the points is about Lojong, about POA. But they're used in the sense of, when you are dying, where are you going to go? So in that Lojong point, one of the 7 points, right? It says, just as you do the following when you are alive, when the time of death comes, these 5 things that you do when you're alive turns into these 5 things that you do when you're dying. So it very nicely links what you do now with what will happen then. So I'll bring these different elements together. So this is this weekend. And EBS is different groups that have me do things differently. Some groups, when they have me do things, they just put in their registration fees what they need. Then they tell people, oh, you all give the teacher whatever you want to give. EBS, from many years of their experience and where they are, have adopted the model whereby whatever they are requesting for registration, they share that with the teachers. It's their way of protecting the teachers. So I do appreciate that. It's their way of protecting the teachers, so that you don't end up with, you know, the teachers not being able to pay bills. But of course, also EBS, you know, can offer scholarship for people who cannot, you know, pay for whatever the registration is. So that's the second announcement. Third announcement is the 15 days of Losar, starting on February 12th to the 27th. 12th to 27th. The 15 days of this next, this new year, lunar new year. Every morning my time, so in Asia it's in the evening, from 8 to 9:30, we're going to do this 35 Buddhist confession practice. Confession is not a very good translation. It's to lay bare, to expose, to open up so that we see clearly, right? The unskillful actions that we get ourselves involved in. Then, in order, what we experience is the result of our actions. This is the most basic and the most important fundamental thing that we have to understand. Buddha says, all our happiness and our suffering is the result of our actions of body, speech, and mind. You want happiness, you don't want suffering, then you have to figure out the quality of your body, speech, and mind. And you cannot figure out the qualities of your body, speech, and mind if you don't understand and you don't see clearly. You don't even admit that, oh, you know, yeah, that was unskillful, and that this is unskillful, and this is unskillful, and this is skillful, and this is skillful. So the 35 Buddhas is a colloquial name of the text. The exact name is called the Sutra in Three Groups, or heaps. It's a literal translation. It means the sutra with three main elements. What are the three main elements? Laying bare or confessing is one. Rejoicing is another one. And dedicating is the third one. So actually this practice is not just about confessing or laying bare, it's also about rejoicing. So I often have said, rejoicing and confessing are two sides of the same coin. Right? You cannot just do one. Then you will be like, you know, medieval Catholics, like just, you know, whipping yourself, you know, right? Mea culpa, maximus, you know, and whip, you know, I've been bad, you know. It's not about that. Yeah. This confessing and rejoicing are two sides of the same coin. So these two. Then with this, we dedicate. We dedicate this to, you know, for the good of all beings, for the sake of all beings. So these. So for 15 days, which this year, 15 days actually means 16 days. Why? Because Tibetan calendar, Tibetan astrology, it's a little bit peculiar. Some days on the calendar are considered to be so bad, they take the whole day out. So if you look at Tibetan calendar, okay, it'll be like first day, second day, third day, fourth day, sixth day. You're like, wait, did the printer make a mistake? No, the astrologer decided the fifth day of this month on this year is so bad, we should get rid of that day. Then, at the same time, there are some days that the astrologer considers to be so good, they make it twice. So that day is 48 hours. So this year, during the first 15 days, I think the 8th day is so good that it's repeated twice.
So day's so nice, you get it twice?
Oh yes, it's like so to all those who say, you can't have it twice, the Tibetan calendar gives you the chance to, to have a Groundhog Day twice. Yeah, so this year it'll be first day, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then 9. So we have 16 days. Yeah, so 8 to 9:30. There is a registration page. It works now. There were some website problems that was warning everyone that we are COVID positive, and so nobody dared to go to the website. I mean, the equivalent, it was giving messages like that. But it's fixed now, I believe. So that's the link. Also, you will have a chance to participate in 2 things during these 16 days. Simultaneously as we're doing the practice, there's an opportunity to offer a lantern light at the Bodhi Heart Sanctuary in my hometown. Some of you have been there. It's a wonderful Buddhist retreat center. And they have 100+ big lanterns that you can offer the lamp for those 16 nights of the beginning of the year. And I think they're asking for only $5 US dollars to light those lamps, to dedicate those lamps. So I will provide more information. So one opportunity is that. So basically you write a name and you say, I want to dedicate this light, this lantern for this name, this person, or this family. Sometimes you can just write, the Quick family, and then everyone's there. Then another thing is in Bodha Stupa in Kathmandu, for those 16 days every morning, one of my friends, monk, will go offer sang offering on behalf of people. So for all those 16 days is $10 just to offer the sang for 16 days. So
Offer what? I'm not quite sure what.
Sang.
Sun or sun?
Sang.
What is that?
Oh, Christina, we've done that a lot. Smoke offering.
Oh, smoke offering. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the juniper sang is the cleansing, and then the lamp, So these are 2. So in a way, like wherever you are, you're doing the 35 Buddhas. Then over in Malaysia, there are lanterns lit. Then over in Kathmandu, there is sang done. So the whole international nature is very interesting because sang is normally done in the morning, but for many of us, when it is being done in the morning, it's actually at night for us here. Then lights are all often offered in the evening, but when they're offering it in the evening, it's actually morning for many of us here. So this is talking about non-duality, This is really, you get to understand the nature of not here, not there, not bound by here and there. Non-duality. Like Gachin Rinpoche says, he says, during his online empowerments, he says, the image that you're seeing right now in front of your screen is more real than the Gachin that you see when you come to Arizona and sit in front of me for the empowerment. Yeah, he says, more real because when you understand the non-duality of what you're seeing on the screen and the old man that you see sitting on the throne. Whether you come to Arizona or you come to, wherever I come to, Germany. He says, when you are able to recognize the no difference, they are equally real and equally unreal, then this is it. He says, this is what empowerment is for.
Dr. Lai, the last time he said that, he said, this is more real than the guy you can hug.
Yes, that's what he says too. He says, all of you love to hug me, and and he hugs them, which is very unusual for a Tibetan person, man or woman, and so he says, all of you love hugging me, but what you're seeing here is more real than
And he also said, this is more real because whenever you need me, I'm here.
Yes, right.
And
right.
I can talk to you.
Yes.
Through recordings.
Yeah, right. He's going full force on this recording empowerment, For him, it's not just that, given the pandemic, he says, no, this is more real. Which is, he's saying, it's up to you. Often people ask me, can I receive that? I was like, well, I don't know. Can you? It's up to you, Now, of course, I also believe because it's Gachen Rinpoche, then it's even more possible. It's someone like Gachen Rinpoche, There's no doubt that he has given his fullest. Others, I don't know, including myself. In some occasions, people have asked, and I've done online empowerment. I cannot say I have given it fully the way Rinpoche has. In Rinpoche's case, no doubt, when he gives, he has given it fully. Now it's up to us, whether we're watching live or watching 2 weeks later, going to YouTube to receive the empowerment, then it's up to us. And this is consistent with how Jigten Sumgön will probably say. Of course, Jigten Sumgön wasn't talking about internet and Zoom. But the principles that Jigten Sumgön gave regarding this empowerment and receiving, and when do you receive, when do you not receive, is consistent with the way Gachen Rinpoche is explaining. Yeah, good. Last time when we met, I said that we are going to begin with the 35 pieces of advice of Chodra, Dugong Dhammakirti. I've had a change of mind. Instead, I think we're going to start with the 4 dharmas of Gampopa. So this is the blessings of Khenchen Rinpoche. Rinpoche has been teaching 4 dharmas of Gampopa. I requested him to teach to the Vietnamese. Then last weekend taught to Mexicans and Guatemalans, and but Tibet House Mexico. There's like maybe 260 people at least attended that teaching last weekend. So Rinpoche's blessings, have inspired me that I think we should begin with the 4 dharmas of Gampopa. Then to that end, I have researched and found a good resource of providing the root texts for Gampopa's 4 dharma, meaning these are found in Gampopa's collected works. So there is a collection of, I think, if I didn't misremember, there's a collection in 4 volumes. I think it's 4 volumes called Dakpo Kambum. But Dakpo Kambum, ka, again the word ka, kagyu, kadam, ka, that means Gampopa's like Buddha words, Gampopa's authoritative teachings. Bum is collection. So the collected words, let's just call it words, the collected words of Dakpo. So conventionally, the collected words of Dakpo is conventionally considered to be, all of those are words of Dakpo Rinpoche, which is the polite way of calling Gampopa Dakpo Rinpoche, because Dakpo is the area that he lived and taught in. Yeah, so he's called the precious one from Dakpo. So Dakpo Rinpoche. So Dakpo Kambum, conventionally, it suggests that these are all his words. But if you look at it, you can see that we cannot literally say that these are all his words. But what we can say is these are words associated with Dakpo Rinpoche by the first generation of his followers. So that there's no debate or there's no doubt that yes, this is what Dakpo Rinpoche taught. Because when you look at it, you can see that some of these were written in the second person and some of it were in the first person. Yeah. So within this Dakpo Kambum, there has been, I think, there are 6 places in Dakpo Kambum where the 4 dharmas of Gampopa turns up. Yeah. Then, beyond this 4-volume Dakpo Kambum, there are still other texts circulating that are related to Dakpo Rinpoche. From there are 2 texts that is on the 4 dharmas, and I've chosen 1 text. So I've chosen 2 texts from the Dakpo Kambum and 1 text that is circulating independent of the Dakpo Kambum, and put all these 3 together, and it has been shared on the protected area of the website. So now I am going to send it to, Javier, can you send it to the chat?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The community link or the file? Or...
Sorry?
Sorry, you mean the link for the community page or the file? Or...
No, just the file tonight here on chat. Then if people want to go, they can also go to the link later.
All right.
Just so that we have it now.
Okay.
Hey, I have a question real quick. When I go to the Jigong Dharma Kirti website, there is no, I don't see the community link.
Yes. Did you get an email from us recently? Check your email. Joseph.
Okay.
Did you register?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Then you should have gotten an email that Javier sent, maybe even yesterday, last night, right, Javier?
I think it was last night, yes.
Yeah, and there you gave the link, right?
Yep, I gave.
Yeah, because that link has been removed. Because that link is not practical to have it there. So instead, there we have the joint Sangha.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see the email. Yes.
Yeah, because that, when you have registered, then that is when we tell you, okay, now you can go to the protected area. Yeah. Yeah, so now on the Zoom chat is the 4 dharmas of Gampopa root texts. So 3 root texts I have chosen for us to start with. So there are these 3 root texts. Then there are 2 commentaries from the earliest times. One by Gampopa's main disciple, Gompa Sutram, and another one by Pamodrupa. So later I will share those. Then there are 2 commentaries that are available in English by Jigten Sumgan. Altogether, Jigdan Simgon has 3 commentaries: the really short, the middling, and the long. So the commentaries, when I have them ready, I'll share with you. We won't be directly reading the commentaries. That will just be like supplementary readings from you. And what I want us to do is to bring in those supplementary points, yeah, as we go through the root text. Yeah. So anyway, we shared the text on chat. There is an issue. Somebody said they can't see it. Some people, because of however you are doing your Zoom, you don't see when files are shared. And there's not much we can do on our end. So all that means is right now you won't have it, but if you go to the protected area of the site, you can download it from there. Yeah, so no worries. Yeah, so Javier also shared the link, yeah, to the site. But now let me see. Let me pull it up and share screen. Okay. Okay. Okay, so now this screen is being shared. You can see, yeah?
Yes. I can see it.
Yeah, okay, good. So, Dakpo Chushi, the 4 dharmas of Gampopa, root text, yeah? So that's Gampopa. Yeah, so the first text is from the shortest of the 3, is from a broader, a bigger text called compilation of fragmented talks of the Dharma Lord. The Dharma Lord is the Dharma Lord Gampopa. Yeah. So there's this one text in the 4-volume collected words of Dakpo Rinpoche. There's one text called compilation of fragmented talks of the Dharma Lord. So in there is this very short. So this is probably the shortest. Yeah? So there it begins with Namo Guru, yeah, which is homage to the Guru. I'm going to read through it once, so that all of us can read through it once before I say more. The precious Guru says. So here, obviously, you can see from here, right? This is not Gampopa literally writing this. This is someone reporting, saying, the precious Guru, referring to Gampopa. The precious Guru says, there is the Dharma that turns toward the Dharma. The Dharma that turns toward the path that dispels delusions, and delusions that appear as wisdom. Then, explaining each of these 4, the formulation Dharma, as in the first point, refers to that one trusts in the law of karma. We normally say karma, but the more grammatically correct Sanskrit word is karman. That one trusts in the law of karma, which is cause and effect, cause and result. Then, that turns toward the Dharma refers to that all wholesome deeds one does will not be stained by concerns for this life. 2, that turns toward the path refers to the following. Since all wholesome deeds that one does are caused by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, one will dedicate them to the benefit of others. This them is referring to wholesome deeds, skillful deeds. Third, the path that dispels delusions refers to the following. Due to having accustomed oneself to loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and suchness, the comprehension arises that all phenomena resemble dream illusions, and so one turns away from clinging to things. 4. Delusions that appear as wisdom refers to the following. On the basis of meditating on that comprehension, meaning the comprehension before, the comprehension arises that all phenomena resemble dream illusions. So then on the basis of meditating on that comprehension, one then comprehends the reality of the natural state, which is the natural state of the mind itself, and one understands that all phenomena of cyclic existence, meaning samsara, and nirvana are by nature unproduced and without arising. So this is the shortest of from this collection. Okay, now you ask questions, comments. Say something. Hello.
This is Laura. The delusions that appear as wisdom. Can you say a little more about that?
Oh, yeah, no, don't ask questions, make comments. I will explain. Yeah, we will go into that, point by point, but just impressions, like, comments or observations, and yeah, let's start with that. So, Laura, yes, I will answer it, but in due time.
It's interesting because the version that I learned was a little different. It was the disciple saying, may my mind turn towards the Dharma, may Dharma become the path, may the path dispel delusion, and delusions appear as wisdom. And it seemed a little different than this particular interpretation.
Yes. What you're referring to, the only difference is that first line. Which is mind turns towards the Dharma. The rest is the same. What you are referring to is that is how later this 4 dharmas was turned into a supplication. So then they add, other people add. Grant your blessings so that my mind turns toward the Dharma. Grant your blessings, Locho Sudrova Jinji Lop, which is grant your blessings that my mind turns towards the Dharma. Then grant your blessings that Dharma turns towards the path. Grant your blessings that the path may dispel delusions. Grant your blessings that delusions appear as wisdom. The grant your blessings part is not in the original. I mean, no big deal. It's just that later, because these 4 dharmas is said to encompass the entire path, right? So in a way, the jewel ornament of liberation is an elaboration of these 4. So this is a Lamrim formula. Yeah, the Lamrim formula in its most essential structure are these four. Now, where there is a real difference, in a way, is the word here. It says, Dharma turns toward Dharma, literally. Jojo Sudrowa. Jojo Sudrowa. Jojo rather than Lojo. Che is Dharma. So what we all say today is Lojo. Lo is mind, like Lojong, Lo, mind training. Jong is training, Lojong. So it's Lojo Sudrowa, which means Lo, mind, Jo, Dharma, this, go. The verb is at the end, like Japanese, Tibetan, verb is at the end. So the difference here is, here it says Dharma turn towards the Dharma, rather than mind turn towards the Dharma. So this is a difference. And as it turns out, in all of Gampopa's versions of these four dharmas, he phrased it as Dharma turn towards the Dharma, not mind. In all the early commentaries, meaning 1 generation after Gampopa, 2 generations after Gampopa, they are all Dharma turn towards Dharma, not mind towards Dharma. The other day, Karmapa Ogintene, again, he also recently, he taught for 7 days or 10 days on the 4 dharmas of Gampopa. So those of you who are curious or interested, you can look for his YouTube. He taught for 7 or 10 days, each day about an hour and a half. I listened to most of it, not every day, but most of it. At the beginning, he gave his research into this, and he talked about this. He said all the early sources where the 4 dharmas occur, it is Dharma turning towards the Dharma, or Dharma going towards the Dharma. He said that based on what he is able to figure out, he is doing a lot of research. You don't hear about him much these days because he's mostly in retreat and he's reading a lot of texts. And so he said he thinks that sometime around the time of the 3rd Karmapa, of course, because he's Karmakagyu, so his reference point is Karmapa, but he's not saying that the 3rd Karmapa did it. But he said sometime around the time of the 3rd Karmapa, somehow people started to have this other version where it says mind turning towards the Dharma, rather than Dharma turning towards the Dharma. So that's really interesting. Yeah. So Randy, you're absolutely right. Yeah? This version is different from what we now know as the 4 dharmas of Gampopa. Yeah? Things change. People change the words. Yeah? Editors, go in and decide, I'm going to improve this.
Dr. Lai.
Yes.
It's an impression. Last weekend, we were talking about, in the 3rd line, we were talking about confusion.
Yes.
And now we have delusions that
same.
Not the same.
The Tibetan is same word. This is just English choice. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when the text talked about delusions, talks about the like the appearance of how do you say, delusions, the dream illusions, like dream illusions.
Yes. Yes.
And I thought it was confusion, that generates aversion and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's that. It's the same.
Okay,
It's
okay.
the same. It's the same word in Tibetan. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah? Trupa.
Okay.
Suzanne, what's Trupa? You want to say more about Trupa?
No, you got it.
Okay. Yeah, Trupa has the sense of like also like right, like magic, like
right.
Yeah, like magic in the sense of like almost deception, not magic like Harry Potter magic, but magic in the sense of illusory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it has that sense, yeah. And it's not, the word used here is not avidya, which is one of the three poisons. The word used here is more the sense of delusion, more the sense of like illusion, yeah, trupa. Yeah, so yeah, good observation. But basically, in English, whether we use delusion, illusion, confusion, the Tibetan word here is trupa, and this is good, this question, because it will, for me to clarify myself and also for all of you, it's not the word that is used for the root of the three poisons, which is avidya, in Sanskrit, or marikpa in Tibetan. Although in the commentary, it's going to explicitly link it with avidya, or ignorance, which is another word in English. Ignorance, delusion, confusion. Yeah. But here the Tibetan is trupa. So it's like magic. It's like some deception is going on. So maybe in that sense, confusion is a little too weak. The English word, at least, confusion for trupa, is a little weak, I think. It's almost like passively confused, Whereas trupa has a sense of like you are actively kind of misperceiving what the heck is going on. There's some element of active deception going on. Other observations or? Khenchen Rinpoche last weekend when he taught, he said a little bit more about the difference of the line Dharma. He points out, yes, we have become acquainted with the mind turning towards Dharma, and here it's Dharma towards Dharma. He didn't explain the history and all that. It's not his style. And he said just like, basically it's the same point. And Karmapa Ogentinle, he said this older one, which is, he says, I'm pretty sure is how Gampopa himself said it. He said, in his opinion, Karmapa Ogentinle, he said, it's a more like a advanced point than mind turning towards the Dharma. And then when you look at the commentary, you will see that, yeah, it's actually, it's like a more profound point being made. That the Dharma has to go in the direction of Dharma. So, in fact, if we have 5 Dharmas of Gampopa, then the first is mind towards Dharma, then Dharma keeping in the direction of Dharma. Yeah? So then mind towards Dharma is, may I become interested in the Dharma, may I follow the Dharma. But when he says the Dharma has to move towards, which is go towards Dharma, then Gampopa is warning us. It is very easy for our Dharma practice to be for reasons other than what the Buddha intended Dharma practice for. Especially culturally, Tibetans, you know.
Along with that path, with that particular point,
Yes.
moving the path itself, the second line, as I understood it,
Yes.
has more of the indication that the Dharma turns toward the path, which means you begin to walk the path that is effective and accurate and beneficial.
Yes.
According to the Dharma itself, which indicates experience.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And
Yes.
in the second portion, I see wholesome deeds.
Yes.
It doesn't seem to encompass that whole idea.
Oh, it will in all the, you know, various versions of Gampopa's talking about it. This is just the shortest of, in no particular order except these three texts, three root texts. I'm organizing them shorter, longer, longest.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then we have to rely on Gampopa's original, like how he unpacks them. Yeah, then we can see what later teachers did with these four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee, I think I was reading earlier somewhere. I was checking the 37. I don't know how to translate it into English. Maybe like traits of the bodhisattvas.
Oh yes, that's the text that Gachen Rinpoche teaches a lot. The 37 practices of bodhisattvas.
Yeah, and I think that there it was said in the explanation that the Dharma as a text is not just to be read, but to be understood.
Yes.
And that this understanding is not to be kept in the mind, but to put into practice.
Yes.
And that the putting into practice dissipates the illusion of
The illusions, yes.
Yeah, I read it in Spanish. And then this understanding of emptiness,
Yes.
kind of, you know, lets us like envision wisdom or something like
Yes.
that. I think I was reading this today.
Good.
Yeah,
Auspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you just summarize the gist of these four dharmas. That's the progression, you know. And you'll see layers and layers. So sometimes in some of Gampopa's root texts, he talks about the four dharmas exclusively using sutra terms. Yeah? No explicit like Vajrayana vocabulary. Then sometimes in another root text, like a longer one, he uses the four dharma to explain Vajrayana. Yeah, so the four, these four steps, you can say in a way it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very flexible in the sense of like you can use it to explain Sutrayana teachings. You can use it to explain Vajrayana teachings. You can use it to explain Sutrayana, Vajrayana combined. You can use it to explain Mahamudra. And in fact, a couple of generations, a few generations after Gampopa, right? When Gampopa has already kind of popularized these four, yeah, Longchenpa, one of the great Nyingma masters, wrote a commentary on the four dharmas where he used that to explain Dzogchen. And for some of you who know more about these things, yeah, these four dharmas of Gampopa is very much like the Sakyapa parting from the four attachments. Which the first one says, you know, if you're attached to this life, you're not a Dharma practitioner. which is corresponds with Dharma turn towards the Dharma.
I don't want to hog the time, but I thought of a couple other things.
Uh-huh.
I like the word delusion in this particular thing so much because it also relates to the nidanas, the link of how actually things appear. And
Yes.
it points directly to the part where we begin to opinionize.
Yes.
Exactly what we're seeing.
Yes.
And that could be termed as total delusion.
Mm-hmm.
That way.
It's active, yeah.
Active delusion.
Yes, it's active. So in the Gongshik class, there is a Vajra statement that we just covered that says, and the commentary makes explicit this point. It says that when we say, and this is talking about avidya, this is not talking about trupa. Here is more like magical illusion trupa, yeah. But here in this Vajra statement is talking about avidya itself. It says this root, what we call ignorance, or sometimes translated as confusion, sometimes translated as delusion. It says it's not like fainting into unconsciousness ignorance. He says this ignorance we're talking about here is actively believing the wrong stuff.
Actively.
Yeah, that which is not self, you believe to be self. That which is not happiness, you believe to be happiness. That which is not permanent, you believe to be permanent. That which is not, desirable, you mistakenly think is desirable. So it's like, is that kind of actively believing the wrong things.
And in that way, I mean, the ignorance is the first step
Yes.
in the interdependent chain, which
Yes.
is the base confusion.
Yes.
But this happens a few steps down where we start,
Yeah. Well, Jigten Zimgun says, he says, every part of the 12 links is driven by this first part.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You can't
Yeah.
go any other way.
Yeah.
But
He
then
said,
the illusion, the magical portion of it is a few links down, as far as I've studied. Because then we start seeing magic and being fooled by magic.
Yes.
Rather than just being confused as to what.
I mean, a more full-blown, of course, there's levels of like how deep you are, right? in this mess. Yeah. So anyway, these are the 4 dharmas. So now you have 3 of these root texts. So always bear in mind, this was translated into English. So the translator makes some choices, which may or may not be something significant or not. So I guess what I can try to do when we meet again is for you to bring up the point and say, oh, this word here, and I can, look at the Tibetan and do my best and say, actually, the Tibetan don't carry this connotation, or yes, the Tibetan does carry this connotation. So in this way, we don't read into the text what is not there. I'm not saying that you cannot read into the text, what is not there, because after all, how we take the text into our lives is also about, right? How our own life experience, our own reality helps us to absorb these teachings, right? So in a way, when we read a text, we are also changing the text as much as the text is changing us. Yeah, this interdependence, right? It's there. I mean, Buddhist lamas don't necessarily talk like this, Buddhist lamas, I think the more traditional lamas always say, the text will change you, But if you really subjectively look into what is going on, the only way I think we can really engage a text is we engage the text as two people in conversation. Now, what that means then is we have to listen carefully what the other person is saying. Before we say, right? No, 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 no. Or yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So we have to listen carefully to what Gampopa is saying. But when we listen carefully to what Gampopa is saying, in a way, Gampopa will also change what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? So then it comes alive, you know. Just like when we are having a conversation with someone, if we're arrogant, right? Then we talk over that person. Then we think I know it all. That's not true. Yeah. That's not true dialogue. Likewise, right? If we're in a conversation where we are feeling or behaving like we're a doormat, yes, 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 yes. I don't think that works either. Because then you are trying to fix a problem by, sticking like patches on top. You're not letting that enter and transform you. So passively just listening or absorbing is not really going to do much. Arrogantly insisting, no, 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 Gampopa, this is what you mean. That is also a problem. So I invite you to start dancing with Gampopa, with the root text. Yeah. And then, we'll come back next week. And slowly we will go through actually the commentary. So I would say it's good if you are able to, have it off the screen, because you'll be turning pages to compare the sections. That's how I intend to kind of have us together understand Gampopa's points. Yeah. Any questions, comments?
Hun, do you have a copy of the Tibetan of this?
Yes, I can send you that.
I would love that. Thanks.
But I only have Wiley.
Oh, that's fine.
I have not found that. I'm lazy. I didn't go to TBRC to find the, it's in
fine. No, Wiley is it's like Tibetan script to me. It's fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
good.
Thank you.
Dr. Lai.
Yes.
Maybe it's a stupid question, but
no, it's
when we are studying this text, can
Mhm.
we write and make
do what
notes
you
and
need. Do what you need to have a meaningful conversation with Gampopa.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, culturally, Tibetans are like, oh, you cannot do this. You cannot.
Uh-huh.
It's cultural.
Okay.
Your spirit has to be, how can I really listen to Gampopa? How can Gampopa come alive? How can we have meaningful dialogue, conversation, with the understanding that I can be transformed by Gampopa's hard advice? Then do whatever you need to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Highlight, put notes,
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you, when I was myself asking that question, then I also took the advice of my teachers, who make comments like, oh, we never write on, Dharma texts, So my own way to kind of respect both that and also my need, to have notes, is I have these like sticky notes, but they're not sticky notes. It's homemade, I would write, very carefully. Then I would cut it out. This is like, I live in the dinosaur age, you know, when I was first reading this text. Then I would glue it onto the text so that I can turn it up. And then I never did anything to the main text, you know. Yeah. And that was very good, actually. Because we tend to think that, you know, especially like more like with even like things like this, it's becoming less and less physical. But I think for so much of what reading is about, it's a physical act. So I would encourage you to get physically involved with the text and not let the text be abstract stuff like swimming around in the head. Physically engage the text. That's why in so many Buddhist sutras, you know, if you read Buddhist sutras, especially Mahayana sutras, they tell you to do all kinds of physical things with texts. They say, burn incense and offer to the text. And they say, throw flowers and offer to the text. And they say, you know, take the text up and prostrate to the text, you know. All kinds of things they tell you to do with the text. Sometimes they don't even tell you to read the text. Now, for us, we might think, you know, oh, this is some crazy superstition. But I don't think so. This is a way of telling us, you know, texts are not just about ideas that swim around up in our head, you know. That texts have to enter into our bodies, into our blood, into our marrow, into our breath, into our minds, into our hearts. Yes, everything. So having a physical text, you know, and having a relationship with a physical text, I think is helpful. Especially like modern educated people, we are all very like, you know, head oriented and very like heavy up here. Then of course we're stressed, you know. Then we have to set aside 2 hours, you know, to do physical things in the gym. But now COVID, gym closed, then people are miserable. So become distance from body. So I would encourage you, yes, if you print the text out, you know, print it on nice paper, then have a veneration for the text. Like this is Gampopa's physical presence, body, speech, and mind. Hear Gampopa's words. Feel Gampopa's heart and see Gampopa's body in the text. Good? Everything I say is only prompts and recommendation. You take as much as it means it's meaningful to you. So, for dedication, actually I want us to do the sevenfold puja, but from the Tara text. Yeah, from the Tara text. At the beginning of the Tara text, there is the sevenfold puja, so we should do that. Starting on, so from page 1 to page 4. Yeah. So who wants to read? Don't be shy, don't be shy.
I'll do it.
Okay, so can you do it? Who are you? Wait,
Andrew.
Oh, Andrew. Yeah, Andrew, can you do it and leave the last verse and don't do the last verse yet? Yeah.
Okay,
Go all,
I'll just.
all the way to sinking in this ocean of suffering. Yeah, and then pause there.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Utterly and sincerely, I pay homage to exalted noble Tara, and all you conquerors and your heirs dwelling in the 10 directions in 3 times. I offer flowers, incense, lamps, fragrant scents, food, music, and the like. Physically and mentally conjured, noble lady and your complete retinue, please accept them. The 10 non-virtues and 5 heinous sins from beginningless time until now, arisen from the mind into the power of afflictive emotions. All these misdeeds, I lay them bare. I rejoice in the merit of all, the virtues accumulated in the 3 times by the heroes, prayekas, bodhisattvas, and ordinary beings and so forth. Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles in accordance with the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings. Until samsara has been completely emptied, out of compassion, do not pass into nirvana. Please have regard for sentient beings sinking in this ocean of suffering.
Okay, thank you. We will come back to that last verse because now I want us to go to page 17. This is a supplication to Tara for protection in 7 verses. It is said that right after Jigten Sumgön achieved complete enlightenment, he had a vision of 7 Taras appearing to him. An authentic, genuine vision of the 7 Taras arising. And then in that moment of experiencing that, he uttered, he spontaneously composed this supplication. Yeah, and so I'm going to lead in the reading of this supplication. In the mother, the birthless Dharmadhatu, dwells noble goddess Mother Tara, bestowing happiness on all sentient beings. Pray protect me from all dangers. Not realizing ourselves as Dharmakaya, the mind is instead overpowered by kleshas, and so Mother sentient beings wander in samsara. Mother Goddess, pray protect us. When Dharma hasn't been born in the heart, we only follow after conventional words and are misled by base philosophical views. Mother Perfect Goddess, pray protect us. It is difficult to realize one's mind. Having seen it, we have not familiarized it, but instead are engrossed in vile deeds. Mother, Goddess of Recollection, pray protect us. Mind is naturally existing non-dual wisdom, but due to the habitual propensity of dualistic fixation, beings are bound no matter what they do. Goddess of non-dual exalted mind, pray protect us. Although some say they abide in perfect reality, they do not know the interdependence of cause and effect, and are confused about the reality of knowable things. Mother, all-knowing Goddess, pray protect us. The characteristic of space is freedom from constructs, and everything is no different from that. Even so, for disciples who are ordinary persons, Mother, Perfect Buddha, pray protect us. Now, the final verse at the beginning, back to page 4. Whatever virtue I may have gathered, may it become a cause for the awakening of all. May I quickly become an excellent guide for all wandering beings. Thank you so much. Glad you're able to join us from all different parts. So we will meet again next Wednesday. These classes, these Sangha meetings are still being posted onto the Jigong Dhammakirti YouTube site. If for any reason you want to go back and look at them, it's there under the playlist of DDIS. Yeah. So yeah, unless anyone has any questions or anything.
Dr. Lai, I have a question just regarding this next weekend. I have registered to attend your teaching. Anything that you recommend that we read before then?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Too much homework, you know.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Lai.
Yes.
I was wondering next week, if you would be willing to transmit the lung that I requested from you.
Oh,
Sambhava Sadhana.
there's a Guru Rinpoche sadhana, yeah, that is on the DDIS website. And yeah, so to maybe next time when we meet,
okay.
the lung, which is the reading transmission, can be done. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So all of you can unmute yourselves and say tata. Good night.
Night. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Bye.
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 Good
Everyone,
night.
thank you.
Hasta la